So,
Okay, that flows perfectly into my next question here, and it's actually a two-part question. So whoever asked this, I'm doing the second part first because it flows better. I was discussing with my husband that in heaven with our new bodies that we will know everything. So like you said, we're not going to be any dumber. With us knowing everything, how will there be no weeping or sadness knowing that we have family or friends that aren't in heaven with us? And a lot of people will quote the verse that he'll wipe every tear away from your eye. And then the debate goes, will we remember those people because then there would be sadness in heaven? How does that go?
okay, let me give you a couple of options here. There is a passage in Isaiah 60. Let's see. Let me get here. It's Isaiah chapter 65, verse 17. It says, "For behold, I create new heavens and a new earth, and the former shall not be remembered or come to mind." That's 65, verse 17. "But be glad and rejoice forever in what I create, for behold, I create Jerusalem as a rejoicing and her people a joy." And so this is one of those passages that people use to say that anything that's uncomfortable for a believer, including the death of an unbeliever, is not going to be something that will ever come to mind or anything that they will ever know about. And so that God wipes that whole thing out. We've immediately got a problem because of verses that I previously talked to you about. So the rich man is able to look across from Hades, and he can see Lazarus being comforted by Abraham. And so Lazarus can obviously see the rich man. We know that Abraham can see the rich man and can see him in torment at that point. And so you can't really, I have a hard time reconciling those two. This is probably specifically talking about the old heaven and the old earth not coming to mind, and it's because of the replacement that God gives you with the new heaven and the new earth. Let me give you a passage over in Revelation again.
Hey, while you're turning there, do you think that Abraham's bosom, the Hades of old, where now believers are taken up and they're not in there, would change that at all because they're not in the same place?
You
understand me?
Yeah, because believers are no longer there?
Yeah, they're in the presence of the Lord.
Right, well, you'd have to wipe out Abraham's memory at that point.
I know.
Yeah, and so you'd have to wipe out Lazarus' memory and everybody else who was in paradise before that point, and so I don't think that's very tenable.
Right.
You could possibly get a situation where people from that point on don't remember anything, but it doesn't look like it works.
Even if you did that, like you would, let's say that was a thing, what are you going to do? Wipe out the crucifixion? Wipe out what Jesus did for us? I mean, those are weeping and sadness.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. And so I think that many times we're kind of scared. Well, I don't want to say scared, but we think that suffering on any kind of level or bad things on any kind of level is abhorrent, and we can't picture being in heaven and having that kind of stuff go on. One of the things that you see in heaven, though, is you see angels and you see people in heaven watching the judgments of God during the time of the tribulation and agreeing with God on what He's done with them. And so there's a passage in Revelation chapter 16 where in verse 4 it says, "Then the third angel poured out his bowl on the rivers, springs of water, and they became blood. And I heard the angel of the waters saying, 'You are righteous, O Lord, the one who is and who was and who is to be, because you have judged these things, for they've shed the blood of saints and prophets, and you've given them blood to drink, for it's their just due.'" And so you have this angel in heaven who knows about the shedding of the blood of the saints and the prophets. He knows this stuff, and he's in heaven, and he's perfect, and everything's cool as far as that goes, as far as his life with the Lord goes. And when he sees the judgment of God, he sees that too, and he considers that to be perfect, and he's good with it. And so I think that one of the things that happens with us when we go to heaven is we get a complete understanding of what's going on. And that includes the whole idea of understanding what's happening with family members and friends who reject Christ. It's never going to be a situation where I'm looking at them and I'm going, oh, you know, this is just awful. This is just horrible because, you know, it's like they didn't get a break or they didn't get a chance. I'm going to know every opportunity that they've had, and I'm going to know what the Lord did to try to reach them, and I'm going to be able to balance all of that stuff and understand that this is good, this is righteous, this is a just thing, right. And God is good and righteous and just. And so I think that rather than wiping out the things that are uncomfortable to me, what God does is he gives me his mind on these things, because God's never forgetting it. And so he gives me his mind on these things, and I'm able to overcome that because of the joy that's in front of me and the peace that I have. And, you know, I don't think that hurt and poignancy and suffering are necessarily something that are, you know, is bad. God is hurt, and there's a poignancy to the Lord's heart towards us, and he's suffered, and he's in heaven. And so I can be like that.
Right.